Hello and welcome to our webinar titled Revolutionizing R&D with OnePlan by Streamlining Innovation and Efficiency. Please feel free to explore our YouTube channel for more content on project portfolio management and enjoy this webinar.
Today's topic is really related to our ongoing theme of strategic portfolio management. And today we're going to be targeting it how it benefits in the areas of R&D and innovation and efficiency in those areas. So with that, let's just get started. So current trends that are shaping R&D departments out in the marketplace. So we, set the stage here with some of the things that are happening in this realm. One, digital transformation is hitting everybody. And when it comes to R&D, Industry 4.0 is something that's really taken hold. For those of you that haven't heard that term before, it's really the fourth industrial revolution. And it's really the next phase where digitization of manufacturing, driven by disruptive trends, including the rise of data and connectivity, analytics, human-machine interaction, and improvements in robotics. So really, this is the kind of the next industrial wave. And this includes AI and machine learning. It's being used to accelerate the R&D process from drug discovery to material science, and big data and analytics being used to gain insights and optimize processes and predict outcomes, and is becoming a standard practice in the whole R&D process. Open innovation and collaboration. The use of collaborative platforms and digital platforms to collaborate with external partners, as we tend to partner up more these days with other entities in order to get where we need to go with the research and development. And the crowdsourcing of ideas, engaging with a broader community to source innovative ideas and solutions and determine which ones are the best ones to us to invest in and to pursue. And then there's the use of agile and lean R&D practices with things like rapid prototyping, with techniques in 3D printing and virtual simulations to quickly develop these things. And lean innovation by applying lean principles to reduce waste, improve efficiency, bring products to market faster. These are approaches that are and practices that are taking hold. And of course, there's regulatory and ethical considerations. It seems like more and more we regulate and we put compliance initiatives in place. And navigating these complex regulatory environments, especially in biotech and pharma, become a real consideration as we pursue these R&D efforts. And then there's always the ethical AI and data privacy issues that we have to deal with on an ongoing basis. Remote and decentralized R&D. With the pandemic, the need for remote work tools and the adoption of remote work tools has become paramount. And enabling our distributed teams to become effective in this decentralized mode is something that has become critical for our success. And even the advent of decentralized innovation labs, which are more smaller, agile innovation labs in various locations tapped into local talent markets to do that, also enhances the need for more decentralized operation of R&D. We also have venture partnerships and corporate venturing. Corporate venture capital, where large corporations are increasingly investing in startups to gain access to new technologies, and potentially we need to partner and share information and progress with them along the way, as well as just overall strategic partnerships where we form alliances with other companies to co-develop new products and technologies. Once again, the need for us to have more collaborative practices. And just overall advanced manufacturing technologies like 3D printing, et cetera, and robotics and automation, and putting those into play. So these are just some that are in the marketplace for R&D. Now, what does this mean in terms of challenges that we face? Well, first off is funding and budget constraints. We all face limited funding, and ensuring that resources such as budget, manpower, and time are allocated efficiently to the various projects and initiatives is done. It can be complex and very unpredictable when it comes to undetermined R&D outcomes. Cost management. R&D projects often involve high costs, and managing this within an allocated budget is crucial, but it's very difficult to do and try to get to the end line before the funding runs out. Rapid technological advancements. In every industry, technology, R&D, whatever it might be, the pace of change continues to accelerate. And this requires R&D organizations to continuously update their knowledge and their tools and get better over time. And also integration. integrating new technologies into our existing systems and processes can be complex and resource intensive and derail us, or let's just say distract us from the primary mission. Talent acquisition and retention, resources. Having a skilled workforce with the right skill sets at the right time is challenging due to high demand and competition these days. And the skill gaps, bridging this gap between skills available in the workforce and those required for our cutting edge research is an ongoing effort, so the resource management becomes paramount. Not only is it a trend, it's a challenge with regulatory and compliance. Regulatory changes and navigating those and adjusting to those midstream in our initiatives can be very derailing, as well as compliance costs, ensuring compliance with regulations and the process and the paperwork and the submissions around that can be costly and time consuming. And obviously, as we're doing R&D, we want to protect our IP. So IP protection and patent disputes is all part of the mix there. Innovation management, achieving a balance between exploration and exploitation. R&D organizations must balance the exploration of new ideas to take us to the future with the exploitation and the full realization of our existing technologies and maximize the commercialization of all that. And risk management, we have to manage the risks associated with innovative projects, which often have uncertain outcomes and is a critical challenge because as we research, we don't know what we're going to find before we start. Collaboration and communication, as we talked about all these distributed teams and these partnerships and these external entities that we work with. We have internal collaboration needs, which ensure effective and collaboration and communication across our silos or cross-functional teams, because that can often be difficult. And then the external piece is definitely obvious, where managing partnerships with these external orgs, such as universities and other companies and governmental agencies, requires mechanisms and clear communication between. Market uncertainty, part of being successful is really trying to predict the trends and accurately predicting those market trends so that we help us decide which are the right things to invest in on an R&D basis. And this can be challenging. And then how do we commercialize this? Translating research findings into marketable products or services requires a deep understanding of the market and effective marketing strategies in conjunction with the scientific or engineering aspects of it. The data management and analysis, big data, as we do this research, handling and making sense of vast amounts of data generated by these R&D activities can be challenging and requires advanced data analytics capabilities. And the data security, because we're actually looking at protecting the things that we're finding. We got to protect this sensitive data from data breaches. It's crucial. So overall, this is just some of the challenges R&D faces, but to address these challenges, it requires strategic planning, effective resource management, and a flexible approach to adapt to this ever-changing and quickly changing R&D landscape. So common components of our R&D projects, they're a bit different than your traditional projects in other realms that you might have, whether it be IT or services or whatever it might be. There's the idea of the objective and the scope, having clear definition of what you're trying to do and outline boundaries of what's in and what's out of scope. Literature review and background research to kind of set the stage for where we want to go, and doing the literature review and the background research to support where we want to go and to understand what's already been done and what's already known. Building a project plan, which has a timeline, a budget, and resources, the traditional things. What methodologies are we going to use for research design, data collection, and data analysis? The development process of concept development through prototype, through testing. Then the documentation and reports, ongoing documentation of our findings, progress reports along the way on how we're doing, and the final report of what we've actually found. Evaluation and feedback. Assess against the objectives. Are we meeting the objectives of the stakeholders that are out there? Gathering input from others. And are we succeeding in meeting the needs of who we're trying to address? Compliance and ethical considerations, like we talked about, has to be factored into our projects. Intellectual property management. That process is a process in and of itself. It has to be factored into our projects. And then the dissemination and commercialization. The publication of what we've done, the commercialization and productization of what we've done has to happen, and that has to be factored into the project of delivering. And then overall risk management across all of it, being able to assess the risks, and then when those risks actually occur, we need to have effective risk mitigation so that we can keep on moving forward. So just some ideas on the components of things that have to be factored in and when you're building R&D projects and the plans for those projects. Now, because we have internal and external partners, silos in different parts of cross-functional organizations that are involved in these things, these types of silos can breed increased cost and efficiencies and a lack of alignment. And poor alignment and collaboration between functional areas can lead to less than optimal results. Being able to grab data from a variety of different silos of information and manually mashing those up, data from multiple tools and data sources and spreadsheets can be time consuming. And the manual report creation, after we've mashed that up, then becomes a process. And then as we do this in all these different siloed areas, we can have duplication of efforts. And the data entry is not only time consuming and wasteful, but it's also prone to errors as we transcribe the same pieces of data maybe into multiple tools. So disconnected information, it's difficult to remain accurate and current across the board and in sync, let alone chasing team members down for timely and complete status updates on how we're doing on things across all these different tools and spreadsheets, et cetera. And then the resource planning itself is hard to manage across all that unless you have something more comprehensive. Now, OnePlan provides a path to overall strategic portfolio management that can be used in R&D efforts. There is the element of the strategies, what we're trying to pursue, what is the organization's overall strategies, objectives, and key results, or maybe value streams that they've defined. Having the execution leaders who are actually leading these R&D efforts, execute these plans within a portfolio, regardless of what methodology might be being used, whether it's more adaptive, more agile, more product-oriented. And then there's the functional leaders who actually own the assets that we have to consider. They could be technological assets, things from our enterprise architecture, our business architecture, our applications, or the different products that we already manage. These elements have to be factored into our overall decision-making, and their success, or the initiatives that modernize and improve those, could impact our success of our overall execution of our R&D efforts as well. We have to be able to make sure that those things are upgraded as we have new breakthroughs in the R&D realm. Now, OnePlan can do these things and meet you where you are. We're going to talk about a lot of different things here today, and some of it you may say we're not ready to do that. Well, you don't have to be done before you start. We can take a crawl, walk, run approach to these things. The elements that we're going to talk about today in the OnePlan solution start from the kind of the intake and strategy area of things. So, for example, developing those strategies, those objectives and key results, or OKRs as they're commonly referred to, so that we align with what the organization wants to do overall is important. Being able to have that enterprise architecture that might define your business capabilities, your products, your applications, the value streams that you may have defined for your organization. And then ideation and request is important, as we talked about in the slides preceding this. Being able to have a place where people can submit ideas, where they can be prioritized, where they can be vetted, where they could possibly be voted on and crowdsourced for support for those ideas, and turn those into actual requests that may eventually become projects or efforts within your organization that we fund. And that goes into the planning, where we end up with a portfolio of these things that allow us to define what it is we want to pursue and build a portfolio with all the requisite data that we need to track, whether they be in traditional more list views like you see here, more agile portfolio boards for people to take more agile approaches, or in the R&D realm, maybe even roadmaps on when we make in turn to deliver things, and when we want to define and graphically depict that, and how that aligns with certain key events within our organization. And obviously resource capacity planning, we talked about skills and having the right resources is paramount. Do we have the capacity to deliver on the things that we're actually committing to? Financial planning, do these things fit within the budgets, and what are we going to have to require to spend on, and what are we actually spending, and what our burn rates are, and maybe even track potential forecasts and actualizations on revenue and or benefits we hope to achieve from these things. And then what if scenario modeling? In a fast changing world, you get hit with changes, you get hit with curveballs. And we have to maybe assess alternatives to approaches and things that we might do, things we might substitute for other things we might have to delay, things we might have to interject we weren't planning on, and look at what the outcomes are and try to arrive at a more optimal solution that we can then pursue. Then the execution piece. Once we've decided on all that, we have to execute. And building our work plans, whether they be more waterfall plans like you see here, the more agile plans with boards, for backlogs and sprints, for example, and even the other elements that you might be working on. Now, OnePlan has its own planning tools built within it, but it also has built-in connectors for the more popular planning, work management, and scheduling tools that you see out there, like Microsoft's project tools, Smartsheet, Monday, the agile tools like Azure DevOps and Jira. So the thing is, if you're using some of those things today, we can extend the capabilities we're going to talk about today, leveraging the execution data that you have in those tools. And we even track things like issues, risks, changes, lessons learned, etc. The idea is it's all totally can be enveloped into one solution across the board, across your cross-functional organization with both internal and external participants. Now, resource managers, to have an overall capacity plan, definitely each effort has to be figured out what resources are going to be required and negotiate maybe what resources you can get from the organization or potentially contract. And those individual plans and resource plans will then roll up to that overall capacity plan we talked about in the planning stage. And team members, having seamless participation where participants and people who are executing on your projects, people that have been assigned things to do, can have one place to go to update their work and their schedules, or even charge time against the things if you have to do that for capitalization of labor or chargebacks or billing. Those things are all built right into the tool itself. And we also have to have analysis. So we have the individual project status reports and R&D efforts status reports. We have the dashboards, which can give us portfolio or program level data, resource level data, a variety of different slices, all through real-time analytics. And then we talk about all these elements like OKRs and enterprise architecture elements and ideas and portfolio items and projects. How do they all interrelate? What's related to one another? What depends on each other? Be able to visualize that so that we don't miss anything across the board and we can communicate those dependencies and those associations to others with something that OnePlan provides for us. And then ultimately, we want the outcomes, whether it's the products, the services, the other things, the drugs, the therapies, whatever it might be. We want the successful outcomes for these things. And we augment all this today with AI. Our built-in, purpose-built AI assistant, Sophia GPT, is part of the base OnePlan product and is available for you to use in your strategic portfolio management and R&D endeavors. The whole idea here is to select the right work to do that's aligned with the corporate objectives, and then to execute well and do the work right once we've decided to embark upon it. Now, OnePlan Sophia GPT, it's built into OnePlan. It's purpose-built for these strategic portfolio management capabilities. It leverages Microsoft's Azure OpenAI, which is built in the Microsoft cloud as opposed to ChatGPT, for example, which is in open internet. And because it's in the Microsoft cloud, it has its own compliance and security capabilities and additional protections that you get from that. And it also just helps us with all kinds of different tasks that we'll show you here today, like analysis, communication, estimation, detecting anomalies, etc. And it actually leverages not only the knowledge base it has is from the large language model in Azure OpenAI, but also will then read and interpret the data that's in OnePlan to help formulate its responses to your prompts. Now, Sophia GPT is always available in OnePlan. So at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a blue icon down there, a blue button, and that is Sophia, who's down there waiting for you to ask questions. And at any given point in time, you'll see some prompts of typical questions in that area of the tool, whether it be in the strategy, the portfolio, the work plans, whatever it might be. And you can add your own prompts or use ones that are suggested to you from right here at any given point in time. And if you go into the now area here, this is where we're at now. We've come a long way from scripts and predictive analytics and APIs to generate intelligence. But AI assistant for SPM is built in. It's responds to prompts, language-based prompts with language-based responses. We are already working on the next wave of AI-based autonomous for SPM, where it can anticipate what you need and maybe offer suggestions as we go along on that. And we're not that far away from getting to that mode. So just be aware that what we have today is going to evolve relatively quickly and enhance. Now, OnePlan is designed for departments and programs across the enterprise, whether they have their own individual needs, they need to manage portfolio of plans and efforts for and initiatives, or organizations that have to look across the entire organization and manage portfolios that roll into an overall organizational portfolio. OnePlan is designed to support those needs, and R&D is no different. It's part of all that mix. It can have its own standalone portfolios of work, or in the cross-functional applications of things for people in other parts of the organization it needs, you can coordinate through a common tool set. That's what OnePlan is designed to do. Now, sample use cases for AI and strategic portfolio management. There's the strategic planning piece it can help you with, portfolio optimization on the selection and direction of that, work management and planning out tasks and elements in that regard, helping to identify and assess risks and risk mitigation, helping us with resource allocation issues, and even with financial or investment forecasting issues. These are just some of the areas that OnePlan can definitely help us. So let me just, play this little recorded instance here of an R&D specific question. This is a picture of OnePlan in its strategic planning area, objectives and key results. And this case, we ask Sophia to provide a list of viable OKRs for an R&D department. And let's see what Sophia comes up with. All right, so it's coming up with some objectives and related key results for those things. The objectives being the overarching strategy, the key results being the tangible measures. Accelerate innovation and technology department. Objective, foster a culture of collaboration and knowledge sharing. Attract and retain top talent in the R&D department. Strengthen R&D partnerships and industry connections. Optimize R&D budget allocation and resource utilization, all of which have some tangible measures by which we can guide our progress. So the idea here is a lot of these actually align to the actual challenges and the trends that we saw in the slides earlier as we go forward. But once again, this can give you some great ideas on where to start with these types of elements rather than starting from a blank canvas. And you can modify these and add to them or remove from them as you see fit. So with that, let me go to a demonstration of OnePlan. So as we alluded to in the slides, OnePlan is really meant to be a comprehensive solution that we can work with to do the things that we want to do. But one of the key things is, as an individual contributor into these things, you may have specific things applicable to you that you want to get to without having to navigate in a large portfolio of things that are being worked on. So for example, this home or insights page for Daniel Williams tells Daniel that he has things that are overdue, things that are out of compliance, things that are due, things that require approvals, etc. That give him an idea of where things need his attention or maybe are falling off track. He also has access to the plans that he has access to himself that he may be able to work on. He can even create new plans from here. He could even access different elements of the different plans, work plans, resource plans, financials, etc., if he has the rights to do so, as well as the collaboration and conversations that may be going on regarding his work efforts on tasks and resources and projects, as well as things that might be due this week or overdue and etc. But giving him a good place to start from as he navigates the things that pertain to him without all the noise around the things that don't pertain to him. Now, we talked about the strategy piece, and that's important to make sure that what we're working on actually aligns with the strategies or the directions of our leadership of our organization. And this is where you can, create your objectives and your key results. Something that might be aligned here with what we want to talk about here is maybe launching a new product line that we're researching into, right? And the things regarding that and the key results are the tangible measures that might support telling us whether or not we're on track to actually achieve this within the time frame that we've set out for it. So if I drill into an objective and a key result, let me drill into an objective here, launch a successful new product line. And let me just first go into the details page. That details page, and by the way, this is configurable for the data elements that you'd like to capture around it, allows you to capture the categorizations, the prioritizations, a narrative description of what it is that you need to do, maybe a time frame on when you'd like to have that done, what we think the costs and the benefits might be, how we prioritize this, maybe with business drivers that are prioritizing and generate a prioritization score, and then also association with the tangible key results that are aligned with this. Now, one of the key things I want to show here is the concept of our visualizations. And these visualizations will tell us, for example, is there anything that we are dependent on or is dependent on us? And we don't have any predecessors or successors with this one, but we do have a bunch of associations. So for example, here, this objective has some key results and we see the status of each of these. This one's a little bit on at risk. Then in turn, the projects and epics that relate to this within that, as well as the different products, applications, business capabilities, and value streams that might be associated with any one of these, right? So for example, if I was looking at one of the things that's associated with me, and I was curious, and I was concerned that something was red, I could very easily go in here and pop out a quick edit of the details around that and find out why that project might be red. I can see the categorizations. I can also see the scorecard and the trending on here. And it looks like what's off track is the schedule and the financial aspects. So it looks like we're running over budget and we're running behind schedule on this to give you an idea of what the problems are there. And any particular status that's current in there would show in here any narrative status that you'd want to put in there regarding that particular plan. Once again, visualization on how all these things are interrelated with one another, right? You could also quick edit into, say, a product that you were concerned about, right? And quick edit into that, and you can see all the various things regarding a particular product. So there's Pied Piper, which is yellow, that I'm concerned about. Notice it's got different data elements for product management on the product description and the product vision canvas that's in here as far as the data and the status regarding that as well. So once again, the interrelations here are important for communication and also to factor other things into your decisions that are germane to your decision and to your success. If you drill into a key result, your develop minimum viable product, same whole things here. Here we actually have a predecessor that says develop and implement a comprehensive capital planning project process, as well as in the runway. Now we have a more focused set of associations where we tie back to an objective. We're only tied on this one to a couple of projects and epics and to one product, et cetera, as we go through, as well as the business capabilities and value streams and no applications. So once again, full visualization of what it is that we're looking for, as well as the metrics that we want to track to, hitting our targets, and then what percentage of completion we are on hitting those targets. Then let's move to ideas, because things start out as ideas before they become actual projects or initiatives as we go through those. And OnePlan provides a portal that allows anybody in your organization or anybody you give access to come in here and submit ideas or requests. And if I go into an example of one in here, that might be a new product or research that needs regard, but it's on mobile application development. In this particular case, there is a predecessor that we're looking at here on voice assistant integration, and in the runway we're looking at, the things that are related to mobile application development. But the details in here, what you'll see is that once again we can tailor these forms with simple drag and drop form building and configuration, not custom development. We can categorize these things. We can devise business case narratives against them. We can actually define either in detail or in high level budget and benefits required, and also a prioritization method, whether it be more business driver method where we determine how strong and strategically aligns, does it lower cost or improve revenue, does it reduce risk, and have a calculated prioritization score based upon your methodology of the way you would prioritize. Or you can use some agile methods like weighted shortest job first if it's an agile methodology that you're going to be using to do these things. Once again, these things all come into being the way you'd like them to. They're all highly configurable. And at any given point in time, you can come in here and you can reorganize a idea or request and convert it into a project, say, for example, and carry forth with it all the data and all the elements that you collected and modified over the course of its idea stage, so that you don't lose all that and you progress this and promote it into a project as we move forward. Now, I would say this, as you go into, say, a different view, and I go into, say, the all ideas view here, notice that we have the concept of voting. We talked about crowdsourcing earlier on, where, for example, we come into something like this and I can see this thing's digital, this digital transformation one has 5 votes. It says that I voted on this one, and there's there's 4 other votes in addition to mine. So there's 5 total votes on this, as opposed to some in here that no one's voted on at all. So the idea here is you can get that whole voting and collaboration aspect on that into the mix here as well. And I would say this, let me go back to the prioritization view in here. This is a case where I can use a live request of Sophia. So say, for example, I open up Sophia here in the lower right, and I'm going to ask Sophia, based on priority and ROI, what 3 projects should we approve first and why? So we've got all these ideas, we've got all this prioritization, we got all this narrative in here that it's looking at, and it's going to assess out of all the stuff we're looking at, which 3 should we approve first? And it's going to look at all the criteria. So it's going to look at not only the knowledge of what it knows from its general knowledge from Azure OpenAI, it's going to factor in the data we've put in here in OnePlan. So it tells us here the voice assistant integration should be done. It's a high priority. It's a strong potential financial gains and relatively low cost for what we're going to do. The cloud migration, even though this is medium priority, it offers substantial ROI and it gives the rationale behind that. And then customer relationship management. So it's giving us not only its suggestions, but its rationale for why we should do those types of things. So once again, help in helping us discern what in our decision making. Now, next we go over to the project portfolio. And in that project portfolio, this can be structured in a variety of different ways. So from an organization that might be looking at more of an enterprise portfolio, like this one would, you might have different portfolios within the overall portfolio. So for example, I got one for data analytics transformation, one for product innovation, one for capital investment, one for operational excellence, business transformation, application development, etc. And the thing is, you can define this structure any way you like. This one is defined as portfolio level, program level. Then you could have either projects or epics, meaning it's really depicting primarily waterfall versus agile efforts in there. And you can even take those agile efforts and break them down into a feature level if you want to, if those are going to be your project type of increments that you want to track in your portfolio. Once again, just one way of doing it, and that's one template that we have to get you started, right? Now, for example, if you were in R&D on the product innovation portfolio, you can determine through enterprise security in OnePlan, as well as in what we call our share with function, that you can determine who has access to which portfolio. So even though you may be part of an overall enterprise portfolio, you can segment what people can actually see or get into that product innovation portfolio. So once again, you can be part of a bigger mix, but still be able to have the proper security that you want for the privacy of that data, okay? Now, I would also say that as we go expand this out, you can see that there is a program level, and then there is a project and epic level where all the different projects are at. And we're looking at a list view here that's more KPI oriented, that tells us where we're at on things as far as overall status, schedule health, financial health, effort health, issue health, etc. But you can have a variety of other views in here that basically allow us to look at other aspects. We could be looking at a financial summary with more financial columns of data, or other aspects of that we'd want to look at. So for example, being able to look at the dollars as opposed to just progress, right? And how we're looking at financials, how we want to look at how we're spending effort, how we're trending on other things. These are all things that can be set up by you for what columns of data you'd like to appear in any particular view as we go through, and you can just choose which columns to appear, and you can save either personal or more global views for yourself as you go through this. Now, I would say this, the other piece is that even though we have what we'd call a primary hierarchy, as we said, the program and the portfolio, et cetera, you can basically have other views that aren't driven by that hierarchy. For example, you can have different pieces of metadata and categorization of these plans that allow you to slice it in other ways. For example, I could come in here and say, let me group this by business unit. And so now all of a sudden, instead of looking at it by portfolio, program, and project, I'm now saying, okay, what are the applications projects? What's the capital planning project, et cetera, and summarizing into those areas. You know, what are the categories of our projects, right? We may categorize these things into different categorizations, where I'm looking at business transformation projects, compliance projects, right? Innovation projects. How are they primarily categorized? What types of projects they are? Or even if I want to look at things like ownership or sponsorship, who's the executive sponsor and who's aligned with those? And I can see them grouped or filtered by those different parameters, in this case by the executive sponsors as we go through. So once again, I can see Amanda's got hers, I've got Angela, et cetera. So once again, different flexible ways that you can look at your portfolio. In that area, I'm going to go over to just a different model that uses a different template. And this one is for kind of more, you know, biopharma clinical research. And instead of programs, right, and portfolios and projects, this one is designed and plan types by therapeutic area, by asset and molecule, and then program plans and functional plans within those. So once again, just another way that this can be organized. Another way that you could do this in a more product-oriented research and development, you could do this by different product lines and products that we're working on, et cetera, and do your plan type hierarchy that way. So once again, very much flexible in the way you'd like to organize all this. If I go back to portfolio summary view here, I'd also like to show in here that in any given portfolio with the plans, you'll see there's icons next to each of the plans, whether it's a project or an epic. And this can determine whether or not you're using other tools connected in there with integration to feed into these portfolio items. For example, I've got one here that's just linked out to a Microsoft Teams site for content and collaboration, but that's telling me that all the scheduling and execution data is actually coming from OnePlan itself with our own planning tools. That being said, here's one that's using Microsoft Planner. Here's one that's using Azure DevOps for its execution data. Here's one that's using Jira. Here's one that's using Microsoft Project Professional or Project for the Web. Here's one that's using Monday.com. The idea there is the overall portfolio management roll-up and top-down planning of all this can happen in OnePlan, yet if you have time and effort invested in other planning tools, we can sync that plan into OnePlan and make that work. So, for example, as you drill into a particular, the elements in a plan within OnePlan includes a details page, which has a format of your choosing, meaning the data you'd like to capture, the data and the categorization and the metadata you want to capture, the business case, which may have come over from your idea or request, right? Prioritization that you used, the current status of your schedule, your financials, and the effort utilization, how your KPIs are looking and how they're trending, current status that was given on a narrative basis. And even if you'd like to look at the associated plans, as we talked about with the visualization, here listed are the things that would show up in the visualization. This project is associated with a bunch of different key results, a bunch of different applications, and some products. So the idea here is this is here in a form as well as in that visualized stage. There's also a work plan in here. And as we look at the work plan, we have a very flexible work planning methodology, meaning you can plan more waterfall-like, you can plan more agile-like. In this case, I've got a schedule work type that if we look at this, it is pre-built in here, and it could have been built from a template should you want to say do those templating exercises to have consistency in plan structure. You can actually have waterfall plans that, agile plans that use more of a backlog and sprint plan approach, where we now have user stories and requirements and tasks, etc. And we might even break those things out and allocate them to different sprints. And these sprints can be either defined right here with limits on story points or hours as we come through there, as we look at these individual sprints. And the key here is that these can come either built right within OnePlan, or if you're using another Agile tool for this, we could choose to connect this to Azure DevOps or to Jira or any other elements that you'd like to enable on a connector basis. The same holds true with the schedule work type. So that schedule work type, for the more waterfall planning, the waterfall tools that you might want to connect with might be something along the lines of, these might be along the lines of using Smartsheet or Project for the Web or Microsoft Planner or Monday.com or Project Professional. So the idea is that you can choose to have these sourced from other places as you see fit. And other work types that come with the tool are to be able to log issues and risks, right, in those areas, and be able to log them here and be able to track them and assign them to people as part of their overall work efforts. The risks that we talked about in the slides, being able to identify those here and make someone assigned responsible for monitoring those risks and identifying those things and helping identify mitigations on those types of things. And if you assign them to somebody here like a Daniel Williams, it will show up in their assignments for something that they have to status and update along the way. You can even add your own work types in here. There's change requests and key decisions in here, but we have people add things in here like assumptions and lessons learned and other ones of their own type, and that's just simple configuration if you'd like to add additional things like that. If I go back to the portfolio, what I would like to show is that we do have board views of the portfolios, which means we can look at this in a more agile type of way, agile or lean types of approaches using boards. And in this particular case, I've got a board where the columns, and you can choose what data element you'd like to define the columns by, or the swim lanes in here, red, yellow, green on this case on what the status is on these particular case. And notice there's a red here on this market research here, which might be important to our R&D efforts. And if I want to go look at this and go pop out a quick edit from this board view, just like I did before, I can see what's going on with this market research effort, and I can see why it's off track and the status of that as well, just on demand. I can also add swim lanes into these things. So for example, if I was going to look at this stuff by, say, category or project or any other piece of metadata, now I've got these swim lanes by what's going on in process improvement, what's going on in strategic planning, what's going on in compliance projects, etc. So the idea here is very flexible board views. And the same holds true with our roadmap views. Now, these roadmaps don't have to be built. They're automatically constructed by the tool. And as we look at something like this, I got one here that's got all my efforts organized, and the swim lanes are actually by business unit in this particular case. The color indicates the status. And I don't think there's any filtering here on this at all. But once again, I can actually get to any part of any of these, right, by just clicking on it and getting to a quick edit, getting to a schedule, getting to whatever, because this is live data, not just an artifact of a roadmap that's out there. And I could quickly go look at this, and if I was going to look at this, say by, let's just say I was more product oriented in my research and development, I can go look at it by, say, product instead of by business unit or the category or whatever it might be. So once again, very flexible road mapping. The other key piece in here is the resource plan. You know, as I go into here and I build individual resource plans within my individual schedules, it's all going to aggregate up to a comprehensive resource plan. And that comprehensive resource plan, this view I'm showing is grouped by role. So I can see what I need from an engineer perspective. And I can look at it in terms of hours, or I can plan it in terms of different things, hours, percentages, full-time equivalents. And if I look at FTEs or full-time equivalents, I can see how many of these things that I need and where I'm over and under allocated. From an R&D perspective, maybe I'm interested in the engineer element here. And I also see that I still have two projects where I have generically assigned engineer, where I haven't given a name to that engineer that's going to work on that. So for example, I could go in here and I can go look for candidates And let's just say I was going to look for candidates to put an actual engineer, a named engineer on this user interface enhancements project, and I can find resources by criteria or just ask it to find a best match for me. And it's going to look and show me the resources that have the skills that I need. And it looks like Steve Masters might have the availability that I need, or Matt Ross in engineering might have the availability I need during this time frame up here. And I can replace that generic with that resource right here and do that resource balancing very simply here through the mix. I can do the same type of things to relieve an over allocation on an individual resource if I have the resources with availability to do that. So once again, resource planning across all this is very important to make sure that we can actually apply the right skills at the right time to deliver on the things that we're committing to. I'll briefly show you the enterprise architecture piece, where this is where those associated items that might factor into our decision or things that might require modification in order to support our new R&D efforts. That's something that we got to consider as we go through here. So what I'll just briefly show you is that there's multiple portfolios that could be here. Now I've got a multifolio view here where I've got it organized by products. So we have a portfolio of products, we have a portfolio of business capabilities, we have a portfolio of applications, we have value streams in here, and you can define whatever you'd like to as enterprise or business architecture elements. As I look in here and I drill into a product, let's say I drill into Pied Piper, you'll notice that the form that comes up for the details we're capturing around a product is different than what we were capturing for a product or what we were capturing for an idea, right? You know, what's in here is basically going to give us, in this case, I'm looking at more of a product canvas where they define the product description and vision and mission and strengths and weaknesses and full SWOT analysis in here, for example, and be able to put the relevant data in here. So this different plan type that we have in here for product or different portfolio type allows us to have different forms for those types of things. The same holds true if we were going to do something in an application. If I looked at, say the customer relationship management one, this one would have its own canvas and its own form for the data you'd like to capture around those and be able to capture things like financials for cost of the application, total lifecycle cost, or the work plan, or whatever it might be that you might want to have around release schedules, etc. And the last thing I probably will cover on today, modeler. And this is where we can define new models and we can create different folders for different areas of the business. So for example, the innovation office might have some idea planning and modeling that's in here that's done. And, you know, in that, you know, we can be looking at a variety of different things. We can decide which ideas are going to be part of our model. And the things that we would potentially like to do. And then we can put constraints on these things like, you know, can we do a budget that is, you know, if we only had a $1 million budget, what could we fit into there on a priority basis? A $1.5 million budget, what can we fit in there on a priority basis, right? And then as we analyze those things and compare them, we can look at, say, you know, how many things we can do for another $500,000. I can only get one more project done, but the benefits that I get will be more than the investment that I make, right? And how much will it take in resources, et cetera, and budget that we're going to need. Probably a more full data set that I have on a scenario. I'll open this particular one up to give you the full breadth of this. What's interesting here is that as I look at the total population of things that I would like to do in these different projects, and you know what it would take from a resource perspective, right? If I look at the resource plan aggregate of all these things that are in this model, it looks like I have a lot of red and yellow, so it may not be doable from a resource perspective. It looks like from a financial perspective, if I look at that from a financial aspect, it may not fit overall within the budgeting constraints that I particularly have. But if I go and look at different scenarios, this is where I would select and deselect projects or move projects out in a timeline. Let's just go to the $10 million budget on this one, where my constraint was a $10 million scenario. And we can save as many different scenarios as we want against this model. So we can evaluate an unlimited number of alternatives. But in this, we came up with a model which out of those, there was, with $10 million, there was 17 prioritized projects that got in, another 18 that were out, right? As I looked at the $15 million project, $15 million limitation on that scenario, as we selected and deselected projects and moved things out in time, we actually had 27 projects that we could do. And what's nice is that we can compare them. So I can compare the different scenarios, as many as I have. And here it's looking at, hey, for another $5 million, I can do 10 more projects. And it looks like for that $5 million incremental investment, I can get an additional $20 million in projected benefit. Might be worth our time to go get that. I can look at the details around this. So I can look at comparing the different scenarios at the $10 million versus the $15 million. I can go compare them side by side and see what was selected, what was not selected, and do the comparison myself to see if I've overlooked something. Other things that we can do is we can look at, for example, traditional portfolio management bubble chart analysis, whereby in this particular scenario, I can see what was selected. The size of the bubble is the size of the budget, but this is the benefits versus the prioritization score. And as I look at it, I can see what I selected and make sure that they're all legitimately selected based upon their value to the organization. And I can even interject the plans that weren't selected in gray to see if there was something I overlooked. Same thing was true with our visualizer. We look at our visualizer in this, and we can actually go here. It uses the visualizer in a slightly different way, in that it can come in here and say, of the selected plans, which had predecessors or successors that it needed that we didn't select? And should we reconsider the unselected ones based upon the importance of the things that we did select? So once again, another further analysis on this as we go through an unlimited number of scenarios. We have a number of different ways we can use AI. Strategic planning is one of them. Some analysis here. You could use it to analyze and identify patterns and opportunities and risks based on the portfolio data that's in there. In work management, you can actually have it create work plans for you or work breakdown structures for you based upon the data that it knows and data that you give it. It can actually come and help optimize your portfolio. We showed you about selecting different things in the portfolio and the ideas portfolio. We can even have it analyze your budget and plan optimization based on criteria. We can even identify potential risks and how to mitigate them within an individual plan. We can even help us define a resource plan, even incrementally by hours, by month, whatever it might be. We can actually have it use financials and analyze those. We can even have it do communications to our manager or create status reports for us without having us do it from scratch, and then we can just modify what it creates for us. So once again, a lot of different things that we can do in here with AI, and we're just scratching the surface today of what the possibilities are. So to wrap up, R&D has its own unique challenges for success in the organization. Better alignment with strategy and enterprise business architecture is needed for successful outcomes in this modern age. Strategic portfolio management has become important in today's business environment across the board. Because of increased complexity and the fast pace of change, it requires us to have methods that can keep up. And our Gen AI, Sophia, is adding a degree of change that impacts R&D portfolios. And OnePlan provides an end-to-end strategic portfolio management solution in the Microsoft cloud. Now, I showed you a lot of different things, and some of it you may not be ready to tackle yet, but a crawl, walk, run approach is still effective and helps us move the ball forward in our organization. Now, OnePlan, we do portfolio management and portfolio management solutions as our business. We're recognized by Microsoft as their global PPM partner of the year 5 years in a row as the winner or the finalist. We are recognized by Gartner and the analysts and Infotech Research for our work in this area and our thought leadership. We do offer free trials, and we also will provide complimentary assistance for you to help you get the most out of that trial. Go to oneplan.ai/solutions, or you can also find us up on Microsoft App Source. The strategic portfolio management template is the one that would give you the most capabilities, the ones that I showed today. Or you can, maybe if you're more focused on R&D and things like biotech pharma, we do have a biotech pharma specific one that you might want to explore yourself. So for free trials, we're happy to do a roadmap workshop with you to see what it would take to get you into a solution like this from where you're starting and what you'd like to get to. Or we might just want to do a more detailed demonstration for you to more address your needs. Just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai or research us at www.oneplan.ai, and we will happy to fulfill for you. OnePlan does bring everything together into one hub. We call that the power of one. Reach out to us, and we'd love to engage with you. Have a great day.